Good morning, class. Looks like everyone's absent today, and the only one that's here is Wilson. Uh, Wilson, today we're going to talk about the prohibition of alcohol. And yeah, what does prohibition mean, Wilson? Well, that's not quite right, Wilson. Prohibition means to prohibit or to stop, like when I prohibit you from getting on the couch, right? Does that make sense? So prohibition, when we refer to it in the historical sense, refers to the period in the United States history when alcohol was prohibited. Now, Wilson, can you tell me which amendment to the Constitution prohibited alcohol throughout the United States? That's right. It was the 18th Amendment. And do you remember when the 18th Amendment was ratified? It was in 1919, correct. 1919, all states, it was the first and only constitutional amendment to be passed through the state ratification method, which you should have discussed in 8th grade civics. And, right, so in 1919, alcohol was prohibited throughout the United States, but it's important to remember that states by that time, most states already had their own statewide bans on alcohol, including Kansas, which passed a state ban on alcohol much earlier than 1919. So, what does the 19th Amendment say, Wilson? You don't remember? That's fine. So we have our handy reminder here. This is our fake jug of alcohol, your reminder. And on the back, can you read it? Your eyes are pretty bad. I'll read it for you. It says the 18th Amendment, which was ratified in January 16th of 1919. Down at the bottom it says how the 19th Amendment prohibited alcohol throughout the United States. It said it banned the sale, transport, or manufacture of alcoholic beverages with more than 0.5% of alcohol. So pretty much anything that had alcohol in it that you would drink was banned if you wanted to sell it, transport it, or make any more. Right, Wilson, right. So if you had some alcohol already, it wasn't illegal. You just couldn't take it anywhere, and you couldn't sell it to anyone. But it was still yours, so it didn't ban people alcohol that already existed. So the 18th Amendment is often kind of dismissed when people talk about it in history because it's the only amendment to also be repealed. Did you know that? And which amendment repealed the 18th Amendment, Wilson? You don't know? That's fine. It was the 21st Amendment, repealed by the 21st Amendment. And when did that happen? That's right, December of 1933. The 21st Amendment repealed the 18th. The 18th Amendment also included a statement that the only way to get rid of it was by another constitutional amendment. You have any questions? Any questions? No? All right. Well, do you know some of the causes? Like, why did they pass prohibition? Wilson, you know? That's fine. So prohibition, it's important to put it in its historical context. Now we look at it and we think it's pretty silly with beer commercials during the Super Bowl and alcohol is such a big part of our culture. So, it seems kind of weird that for this period between 1919 and 1931, alcohol was banned throughout the United States. But we need to go back in time and think about what was going on in the world right then. Do you remember last week's lesson over World War One? Right, when did that end? World War One ended in 1918, so this was just 1 year, less than a year after the end of World War One. There was also a strong temperance movement. The temperance movement was a largely women organization run by women who were opposed to alcohol, and this also gets kind of overlooked or misconstrued by a lot of people. And I also, I want to remind everyone when we talk about the 18th Amendment, to think about the 19th Amendment. When did the 19th Amendment, when was the 19th Amendment ratified, Wilson? When was it? Right. It was ratified in 1920. Yeah. So 1 year after the 18th Amendment, the 19th Amendment. And what did the 19th Amendment do? It granted the right of suffrage to women so women could vote. And those two events, those two constitutional amendments, are closely linked, or they were at the time, though people don't think about them being linked right now. The repeal of alcohol was also an important step in the women's rights. Uh, so, uh, domestic violence, that's violence between a married couple, is often linked to alcohol consumption. And women in the 19th and early 20th century saw the link between alcohol and domestic violence and decided that one of the best ways to keep women safe was to not allow men to drink, or people in general to drink, because it's because it is destructive. I think we do hear a lot in our school about the destructive effects of alcohol, right? Uh-huh. No drinking and driving, right? No binge drinking, right? But you need to put yourself back in the 19th and early 20th century when alcohol consumption was much higher than it was even now. During some parts of the 19th century, Wilson, alcohol consumption was incredibly high. One period in the 1830s, I know that's it's ancient history to you, but one period in the 1830s, the average person over 15 consumed almost 9 gallons of whiskey per year, and I think it's pretty astronomical, even when you look at drinking in countries known for alcohol, like Russia or certainly the United States. So you need to put it in the historical context that the United States was a country very closely tied to grain alcohol and whiskey, and this high levels of drinking, including by children, and then the violence that was associated with it, the violence against women, and this is sort of effects on alcohol in people's lives. Now, maybe not quite as much drinking and driving, but I see you're bored. You're bored. Okay, that's fine. So, why was the prohibition on alcohol repealed? Right? Well, if you think back about those your favorite gangster movies from the 1920s, there was a large movement. Once alcohol was made illegal, the people who made alcohol were then criminalized. So we had a lot of underground criminal organizations which used the money they got from alcohol to do things like run the mob. People like Al Capone were a famous alcohol smuggler, a rum runner, and at a certain point, people just started to push back on the idea that all alcohol needed to be prohibited, and then there were movements like the Men for Beer and things like that. People with very clever names began to protest for the right to have alcohol, right? So then they pushed in 1933. They were able to repeal the ban on alcohol. All right, so let's go over a couple things that'll be on your quiz. So a good way to remember this is the 21st Amendment, which gave you the right to drink since you're like 50 something in dog years. You can drink when you're 21, and the amendment which repealed the prohibition, which allowed you to drink, is the 21st Amendment. And 18th Amendment is easy to remember because 18 is the year of universal suffrage. That's the year everyone can vote, right? Oh, you don't vote. That's fine. But you could, I mean, if you're a human and technically 18 years old. So it's easy to remember. 18 years old, 21, 21 years old. So you're prohibited from drinking alcohol when you're 18, 21 you're allowed. Pretty simple way to remember. And then the dates are pretty easy to remember as well because they're kind of funny. The 18th Amendment was in 1919. We got two 19s. And the 21st Amendment was in 1933. You get all that? You did? Well, that's great. It's great. You're not asleep or anything. All right, bud. Well, the test is next week. So remember, 18 on your 18th birthday, 21 on your 21st birthday, 1919 and 1933. Do you remember that? Okay. And what are the three ways that the 18th Amendment banned alcohol? There was one way it didn't ban. I'll let you cheat. It banned sale, transport, and manufacturing. Right? So you could have alcohol, you just couldn't take it anywhere or make any more. All right, bud. Well, looks like class is about to be dismissed, and you can go back to your nap. All right, bye.